Okay, we're going to get started on tonight's webinar. Tonight's webinar, Treasurer's Briefcase Quick Start. I'm David Lauer. I'm a CPA. I'm also the Director of Tax and Accounting Support Services for Treasurer's Briefcase. Tonight's webinar is designed to help you during your term as Treasurer for your organization by giving you a perfect start with Treasurer's Briefcase. By webinar's end, we hope to inform you how to establish an accurate opening cash balance, how to adjust categories to accommodate your expected activity, to create this year's budget, to enter your monthly checkbook activity, to perform a perfect bank reconciliation, and to publish your monthly reports for your board meetings. And of course, if time permits, we'll have a question and answer session. Probably the most important step to having a smooth a year as a treasurer is establishing a correct opening cash balance in a treasurer's briefcase. Simply stated, your opening cash balance should be the final balance on the bank statement of the month prior to the start of the reporting period. For example, if you're a June 30th year end and you wish to start for the new fiscal year, which would be July 1st, you will start with the June 30th bank statement balance. Although establishing the correct opening balance is important, don't panic. If you don't have the information readily available, errors can be fixed, history can always be entered, and worst case scenario, you can actually use a starting balance of $1. Hopefully most of you have seen this screen in Treasurer's Briefcase, but if you haven't, this is one of the setup screens you will get in which we will ask you what the starting balance is. You'll see that right here in the middle of your screen where it requests the starting balance. Again, simply stated, that starting balance, you will just grab the most recent bank statement. Here's an image of a recent bank statement. You'll grab the prior month's ending balance off of the bank statement. In this case, 189, 296, 31, the yellow highlighted number here. And you'll place it into your Treasurer's Briefcase starting balance number. The one thing we didn't discuss is outstanding deposits and outstanding checks. I requested from the previous treasurer the bank reconciliation that was performed by them, and I have a copy here of their handwritten bank reconciliation. This is a critical step in preparing for your season. You're going to need to enter the previous month's outstanding deposits and outstanding checks from the bank reconciliation that was provided by the former treasurer. If by some chance the former treasurer hasn't performed the bank reconciliation, again, you don't have to panic. Just put the information off the previous bank statement, the ending bank balance, and as the future bank statements come in, you'll be able to highlight those checks and deposits that come in that were actually from the previous fiscal year. I'm now going to go to our software and show you that in this case, I'm going to actually enter those outstanding checks and deposits. So I'm going to go to the checking account. I'm going to go to new transactions. And now I'm going to enter those outstanding deposits and outstanding checks from that bank reconciliation that I showed you earlier. Again, that bank reconciliation provided by my former treasurer. So there were two outstanding deposits of $1,500 and $400. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on the deposit tab. And I'm going to put the date of those deposits. That's a key step again, is using the correct dates of the deposits and checks that were outstanding on the previous bank reconciliation. In this case, we're going to go with August 15th was the date of the deposit. You're going to see this warning sign that will tell you you're outside of your fiscal year. I know that because I'm entering the previous fiscal year's activity. So I can go ahead and say ignore that because I don't want to get that command in the future. And I'm going to enter the $1,500 deposit. This deposit happened to be from a corporate contribution. I'm going to go ahead and save that deposit. I'm going to enter my next deposit, which was also on August 15th for $400. and that happened to be some dues that were contributed, club dues that were collected. And I'm going to save that. And there were 3 outstanding checks. A check written to John Smith for office supplies. You'll notice John Smith is not in the system. The system's smart enough to recognize this is probably a person. Just wants you to confirm that. And we're going to go ahead and add on the fly that vendor or contact. And we gave that person $100, and that was for office supplies. We're going to go ahead and save that. We're going to enter the next check. This check was actually written on August 28th. It was written out to Acme. I'm going to add that vendor. In this case, it recognized it's probably a company. And that check was for $149. In this case, it was for supplies for a meeting. Now you notice, I'm going to keep typing this. It doesn't recognize that category. You can always add categories, what we say on the fly or from within the screen. I'm going to add meeting meals as a category. That's an administrative cost. We discussed in detail the concept of categories in a prior webinar. Feel free to check our website for a full webinar on the theoretical process or theoretical dive into the idea of functions, program, administrative, and contribution, gifts and grants, and fundraising. I'm going to go ahead and add that. And I'm going to save it. And the last check that appeared on my bank reconciliation was for $250. It was also on the 28th, and it was to a company called The Magic Shop. This, in a case, it thinks it's a person, but I'm going to let it know, no, that's a company. I'm going to click Add. And this was for a magic show that we were putting on to raise funds. Again, it doesn't recognize it, so I'm going to go ahead and add it. In this case, I'm going to tell the system rather than an administrative function, it's actually a fundraising function that we were performing. I'm going to close, and I'm going to save it. And you'll notice the checking account balance changed. And so now that checking account balance actually should tie exactly to that bank reconciliation that the previous treasurer provided me. So again, I started with my bank balance. I put in the outstanding deposits, and that's giving me the correct checkbook register balance as of the end of my previous fiscal year. So that probably is one of the most important steps in the process for getting started and getting off to a great year. Earlier, I spoke about categories, and I'm going to just step back and give you a very quick Reader's Digest lesson on categories. Classifying activity properly is really the foundation to great reporting and budget preparation. We hosted a webinar, I told you earlier, on record keeping for small nonprofits, which was really just a pure theoretical dive into unique reporting issues for nonprofits. So I encourage you to visit the website. There is a recorded version of that theoretical dive on the website. You can always go to our website, and you'll see one of your sections of the website has all our webinars, and any webinars that have been recorded will be on the website. Basically, the IRS wants you to report your activity by type and by function. The functions are broken down into 3 buckets, those being program, fundraising, and administrative. We call them categories, but just think of them as the various types of buckets that those expenses or activity or income activity can be posted to. So whenever you report your activity, it has to be assigned to one of these 3 master buckets. I'm going to go back to the software for a second. I'm going to show you within our software, under settings and categories, you'll notice very similar the buckets. So you're going to have fundraising, administrative, program. We break out contribution, gifts, and grants, and investment income because they're also broken out on the tax return separately. So you'll see those separated here. One of the things you have the ability right from the screen to do when you first sign up after you've picked a standard template is you can print your categories report. That report will actually show you a list of all of your categories that were pre-populated by our system. So you can go through this list, and you can cross out those items you don't want, you'll never use, and you can also decide on which categories you may want to add. If there's a special fundraiser you decide you're going to have this year, you can always add it after the fact. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and remove some categories, show you how to remove some categories. For instance, I know we'll never do an auction. All you do is you can expand the category, the master category, fundraising. You see the auctions here. I'm going to go ahead and hide auctions. I know we'll never do a book fair, and we're never going to use box tops. That's how easy it is to hide categories. It's just as easy to add a category. In this case, I'm going to add beef and beer fundraiser, which I was told we're going to do this year. So I'm going to go ahead and add that. I'm going to save it. And now I've removed some and I've added beef and beer. You'll see beef and beer now here in the category. Let's talk a little bit about budgets now. Spend some time. That's probably the next important step. You've now entered your cash book balance, your checkbook balance. You understand categories and that you've got to separate things based on the proper categories. The next step, if your organization does provide a budget, is creating that budget and entering it into the system. The board should approve an annual budget, as it is one of the most important legal responsibilities of nonprofit board of directors. It doesn't have to be complicated, it just needs to show the main sources and amounts of income and the main categories and amounts of expenses. And importantly, you should issue reports throughout the year showing your actual income and expenses compared to the budget. Obviously, I'm going into this detail because, of course, Treasurer's Briefcase does have an easy solution for budgeting. So again, going back to the software, I'm going to show you how easy it is to enter a budget. Under our Services tab, there is a budget feature. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the budget. And it's asking me, do I want to start the budget for the fiscal year ended August 31st, 2016? I do. So I'm going to go ahead and say Start My Budget Maker. I have in my hand the budget that was prepared by the Budget Committee this year. So I'm going to enter that budget. It's as simple. It almost looks like a glorified version of an Excel spreadsheet. You'll see you can expand the categories. Again, you're going to notice those categories are the same categories the IRS requests you to use: fundraising, contributions, investment income, programs, administrative, and operations. You can expand any one of these categories and see all the categories that were posted. Any category we hid will not be here. Any category we've added will be here. So for instance, under fundraising, we should see beef and beer. You can also add categories on the fly from this section. So I found out earlier that a program item that we're going to do now, we're going to host a state tournament. So I can go ahead and add right from within the budget maker. And that's a program category. And I'm going to go ahead and add. In our previous webinar, the theoretical dive into record keeping for nonprofits, I speak a little bit more detailed about the categories, and I define the difference between fundraising programs and contribution, gifts, and grants. It's not always crystal clear. That webinar paints a pretty good picture. We also have some resources on our website that you can turn to. I'm going to go ahead and enter my budget. So under contribution, gifts, and grants, we're expecting dues for the year to be $5,000. We're expecting corporate donations of $6,000. We're hoping individuals will donate up to $3,000 this year. Under fundraising, we determined we are going to do a flea market this year. So I'm going to have to add that category. And that's under the fundraising category. I'm going to go ahead and click add. And under fundraising, I should see the flea market category. We're expecting the flea market to produce 1,200 hours of revenue. We're expecting the ad book to produce $7,000 of revenue. You notice you can do revenue and expenses on the fundraising because you will have expenses associated with fundraising. Concessions, we expect to bring in $25,000 of income. Games of chance, the 50-50s and whatnot that we do during the football games, we're expecting $7,500. And we're going to sell signage this year and bring in $2,000. On the program side, we're expecting to spend $15,000 of equipment for the club. Field maintenance. We expect to spend about 7,200 hours in field maintenance and $13,000 in uniforms. And finally, under my administrative section, we're looking at, again, on the expense side, insurance of $1,100, legal of $900, office supplies of $300, postage of $140. Again, I'm just pulling this off of the budget that's been memorialized by our budget committee, and the board approved it. And I'm done. I'm just going to go ahead and click save. Now you'll notice right from within this screen, you have the ability to actually print your budget. So I can go ahead and print my budget. I can preview that budget. I'll click here to preview it. And there's our budget. So the budget for the year has been posted. We're expecting $56,000 to come in and $37,000 in expenses. And that's how easy budgeting can be. It's a simple, easy process. And like I said, all clubs should try to do that. And we've made it as simple as we possibly can. The next step is now you've entered your checkbook balance, you've kind of understand categories, you've entered your budget. Now it's time to start recording activity. What we've done is basically taking that old check register we all are used to, that manual check register, and found a way to put it on the cloud. So basically, once you get comfortable, it's not easy to do, but once you get comfortable, you should be able to be totally without any handwritten tools and work strictly off of the cloud, because everything you could possibly need will be within our software. We're going to go back to the software now. I'm going to go back to our home screen. And again, the checking screen is where you will enter all your activity. You can go there via the icon or via your taskbar. Again, if you went by the icon, it'll bring you right to your check register, show you the activity you've posted so far, and you can add from within that category, that screen. You also can just do checking new transaction, and you'll get to the same spot. You'll notice it has the previous date that I used, so you got to be careful. You always make sure you use the proper date. And I'm just going to record a couple of transactions that occurred here in this month. So the goal is you're going to record all the activity for the month for your board meeting. In this case, we had a deposit from the Knights of Columbus for the beef and beer. We actually made a deposit to the Knights of Columbus for the beef and beer. And this was to hold the hall for the event. So what I'm doing here is I just posted, and I can put a memo. So what I've just told the system is we wrote a check to the Knights of Columbus. This check was actually written on September 10th. It's check number 4. It was $500 to the Knights of Columbus, and I posted it to the beef and beer category of the fundraiser. It's an expense of the fundraiser. I'm going to go ahead and save it, and that's how easy it is to enter a check. We collected dues this month, and I deposited those dues on September 29th, and we collected 4,200 hours of dues from members. If you wanted to, you could put the name of each member and split it among this, and I'll show you how to split later. But for purposes of this exercise, I'm just going to lump it all together and hit save. We received a corporate donation, another deposit of $5,000 on the 29th. And that was a corporate donation. In here, you could put who the donation came from. You want to put what it was for, you can do that. We're going to add it as a vendor. You can put a memo in here. Their matching program. Many corporations have matching programs. We'll hit save. We paid for a field sign to a company called Signorama. And that was $500. And again, this is for signage. It's the way we raise revenue. You'll notice that signage category is under fundraising. We paid for uniforms to Under Armour. Paid $5,800 to Under Armour. And it went to the program category. I can put a memo. And we actually had to reimburse our president, Emmett Brown. And we had to reimburse him $210 for his out-of-pocket expenses. You'll notice I'm now using this for field, and I'll explain why I'm doing that. We wrote the check to Emmett Brown, and it's for reimbursement for his out-of-pocket expenses for $210. But he actually made payments to multiple vendors, so I want to make sure I record all that activity properly. He actually paid for tolls. Again, the system doesn't recognize it, so I can add it on the fly. And that would be an administrative charge. It could be something other than administrative, but obviously in this case it was a tolls he incurred to go to a meeting. He paid those tolls to the New Jersey Turnpike. And those tolls were $10. Now I'm going to hit the split button, and you'll notice it keeps going because it recognizes we haven't used up all $210 of this check yet. He also incurred office supplies. He bought at Staples. Paper for reading printouts. And in that case, he spent $180. Now you notice the system's telling me I'm still under by $20, so I'm going to hit split. And he actually incurred postage to mail out some checks. And we are done. We're going to go ahead and save that. So now all my activity for the month has been entered. My opening balance, as we know, was correct. I entered my budget. And now the next step, the most important step, or for most treasurers, is actually preparing the bank reconciliation. I know many people, with the way online banking is, they don't do bank reconciliations as often as they probably should, but it's imperative as a nonprofit treasurer you do your bank reconciliation every month. It is probably the one task you do that I don't think you could ever afford to skip. It's how you ensure the accuracy of your reports, and it's also the number one method to find fraud or embezzlement issues. As a reminder, it's essentially your ending balance per bank plus your outstanding deposits less your outstanding checks should equal, in a perfect world, your checkbook balance, or in our case, the checkbook register balance. So at this point, I'm going to show you how easy in Treasurer's Briefcase it is to actually prepare your bank reconciliation. So I'm going to go to the checking module. I'm going to click on reconciliation, and you'll see this screen is basically asking me for information, some information. I'm going to circle back to that old bank statement. Most bank statements are laid out this way, where they'll show you total deposits and total withdrawals. You're going to need those numbers and the ending balance numbers off of your bank statements. And you're going to put those numbers in the appropriate field. So in this case, we had 6,100 hours of deposits, and we had $7,329 of disbursements, and our ending balance was $188,067.31, and it was for the period that ended 09/30/15. I'm going to hit continue. Now, what the computer did was a couple things there. It did the math to make sure my math was correct, that 189,296 plus 6,100 minus 73,29 equals 188,067. That number ties out exactly to my bank statement. Also, it's important, again, I'm going to reiterate, you make sure you use the proper date, proper bank statement end date on this reconciliation. And what the program did was it went out to your check register, and it looked to see what checks, what deposits haven't cleared yet, what checks have not cleared yet, and brought them into the bank reconciliation module. Okay, so I have the bank statement in front of me, and I've cleared my check. I'm clearing the deposits that have cleared the bank, and these 3 deposits cleared the bank. I clicked off on those. The system's telling me I'm right on the mark. It's giving me my approval, my check, my little check here to let me know it's fine. Now on the disbursement side, the same thing. I'm looking at my bank statement. I'm clearing checks off of from my bank statement. And I have everything cleared that was on my bank statement, but I still have a difference of $30. And now when I look at my bank statement, I realize the bank charges us $30 for bank fees. So I'm going to go ahead and add a transaction to my check register right from the bank reconciliation module. So at this point in time, I can go back out to my check register by clicking on add transaction. I'm going to do an other out because this is not a check, but a bank fee. Bank of America charges us $30. And it's a bank fee. And we're going to click save. And what the system's going to do is bring us back to my bank reconciliation. It's now entered this $30 transaction back into my bank rec. I can go ahead and clear it. And now you'll see my bank reconciliation works. I know it works because it's told me down here, complete the reconciliation. When I click on this, you will not get this icon unless everything balances properly. So in traditional bank reconciliation format, I have my bank balance plus my outstanding deposits minus my outstanding checks. That's my true checkbook register. That will tie to the checkbook register. I'm going to go ahead and hit complete reconciliation and say yes, complete the reconciliation. What the system's doing currently is actually printing a copy of my bank reconciliation to my briefcase, which I will show you shortly. But if I wanted to view it, I could just click here. and then view the PDF that's created by the system. And here we go. So that's how easy it is to actually do a bank reconciliation. It's, again, simple, fast, and easy. We try to do everything simple, fast, and easy. And your work for the month at this point is basically done. Again, as long as you have your opening balance in properly, as long as you enter your transactions based on the proper categories, and if you have a budget, you've put your budget in, you're now ready to print reports for your board meeting. Printing reports in Treasurer's Briefcase is probably the feature that gets the most oohs and ahs when we're at trade shows. So it's as simple as clicking on the Reports key. The Reports button, you'll notice you have lightning rods. These are what we call quick reports. These reports will give you the previous month's report. So I'm currently, for purpose of this work, I'm in the month of September. It would give me August's work. You also have the ability to click on Custom Reports. In Custom Reports, I can actually pick any period of time I want. I could do previous fiscal year, current fiscal year, previous month, current month, and I can also just override this and do a period of time. I could do a quarter, 6 months, whatever I need. In this case, I'm just going to do current fiscal year, and I'm going to explain some of these reports to you at this point in time. The activity report is just that. It's basically a picture of your check register. So I'm going to go ahead and generate this report. Notice in our software, you have a couple of options here. I can print to a PDF. I can also print to Excel. Some reports you may want to print to Excel just because you may want to manipulate them in some way, shape, or form. I also have the ability on some reports to change my title color. And we didn't show you how to do it, but in another webinar, we demonstrated how to upload a logo. So if you want something that matches the color of your team, you can go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and print this report. And I'm going to view it. Now what you'll see is this is basically just a computerized version of your check register. It shows my opening balance, my activity, my ins and outs for the month or for the period, whatever period I've selected, and it gives me my final ending balance. All the details here. So you remember that check that we wrote to Emmett Brown. In that case, it breaks it up into all its components. So I really know check number 7 was written to Emmett Brown, and he paid New Jersey Turnpike on his own. He paid Staples on his own. He paid USPS on his own. And I have all the detail I need in here. The budget variance report is just that. It's going to show you the variance between the actual activity and the budget. So I'm going to go ahead and print that report. We're going to view that report. Now, only 1 month of data has been entered, so there's not going to be a whole heck of a lot here, but you'll notice it shows the budgeted expense, the year-to-date actual, and therefore the variance, the budgeted revenue, year-to-date actual, and the variance. So you can print this report at your meetings. You can give it to certain committees so they know whether they're on budget or over budget or heading toward being over budget. It's a nice way to keep your committee members on target. The budget report is just that. I showed you that earlier. You can print it from here or you can print it from the budget screen. Category listing, I showed you that earlier. That was the listing of all your categories. Category detail, actually, I'm going to do it for the current fiscal year. That will show you all the activity for each category for the period selected. So it's a little more detailed report, and it shows me all the activity by category. So under beef and beer, so far we only have 1 check entered, and so forth. Under signage, we only have 1 check. Again, it's only 1 month of activity, so there's not a whole lot here. But you can understand that after a year of activity, this is a very meaningful report that can be viewed by the president or the treasurer or board members to get a better feel for what's in any given category. Contact report lists all your contacts. Executive board report is very similar to your treasurer's report, but gives a little more detail. Fundraising report will give you a report that will compare revenues to expenses of all your fundraisers. The reconciliation report I showed you earlier, that's a printout of your bank reconciliation. Our system does have the ability to track 1099 vendors, so you can print a report at your calendar year end of all your 1099 vendors and give that to your accountant so they can issue 1099s properly. And then finally, the most impressive report that people like how quick and easy it is I'm going to go ahead and print the treasurer's report for the current fiscal year. I'm going to generate it. I'm going to view it. And you'll see how quick and easy it is to generate a treasurer's report for your board meeting. So here's my report. It shows us the revenues that came in this period, the expenses we paid out this period, what the net difference is, and therefore how much cash we have at the end of the period. So you could print this out, a copy of your bank reconciliation, a copy of your category detail report, go to your meeting and have everything you could possibly need to answer questions and impress your board and the members. You'll also notice on the screen we have a couple of other options. We can file these reports, or we can email these reports. Filing the reports, I'm going to go ahead and file the treasurer's report. And what that just did was place that treasurer's report in my briefcase, my electronic briefcase. If I email a report, I can again do just that. I can email to anybody I want to. I can also, I haven't pre-populated, but once under the vendor screens, under the contact screen, once you enter your board and their email addresses, you'll be able to click add board and it'll automatically put all your board member email addresses in here, and you'll be able to mail this report out to your board. So I'm going to go ahead and send this to myself. I'll click send, and behind the scenes the program is now taking that report, adding it to an email as an attachment, and sending it out to whoever you relay it to. So that's how easy reporting function can be. I want to take some time at this point. The 4 or 5 main steps that you have to do to have a perfect month are basically done and behind you. But I just want to take some time to show you where all these reports are going when I press that file button. Let me briefly tell you about my very first experience as a treasurer, and ultimately the reason I created Treasurer's Briefcase. Around 1995, I volunteered for our local Little League, which had a very long, rich history of success and was known all around New Jersey as the league that just had it all together. Except I learned their finances. When the outgoing treasurer said, "Let's meet," I had no idea what I was in for. He literally brought me 6 banker's boxes of files that each year would get transferred from treasurer to treasurer. The funny thing is, when I went through those boxes, there wasn't a single tax return in the files. The IRS determination letter wasn't in there. Neither was any legalized games of chance licenses, and no, in our state, no charities registration forms. It was right then that I thought there has to be a better way, and through necessity, we created Treasurer's Briefcase. So for me, it all started by creating the central repository for documents for these organizations to make it easier to transition from treasurer to treasurer. So we now have this digital briefcase. You know, I clicked on briefcase, you saw the briefcase comes up, and you'll notice there is a report in here. This report is the treasurer's report that I just printed earlier. So we have the ability to actually view these reports, add a tag to the report, and rename those reports. You can do a lot of things with these reports. So I'm going to go ahead and add another tag just so I know this was the September 2015 report. I'm going to go ahead and save that tag, and I'm going to close it. You'll notice right now it's just sitting in a folder called My Documents. You have the ability to create folders. So I'm going to go ahead and create a folder and call it Board Reports. I'm going to add that folder. You'll see there's nothing in it, but under My Documents, I still have that Treasurer's Report. I'm going to go ahead and move this Treasurer's Report so it's just a drag and drop process to my Board Report section. We recommend creating a couple of folders. One, you want a folder labeled Permanent Folder, where you'll keep all of your important permanent documents like your IRS determination letter on file, your IRS EI number documentation, anything like that that you need to keep indefinitely. We also recommend you keep folders for your receipts, and you'll notice it automatically created a folder for reconciliations. So all your bank reconciliations would be automatically saved here. And you can create an indefinite number of folders. What you didn't see when I first loaded the software, it asked me for a PIN number. Every time you log into the software, it'll ask you for your PIN number. Your PIN number is assigned to you. It's just another security measure we use to make certain if somebody does accidentally get your login information, they won't be able to look at any documents if they don't have the PIN. The briefcase is a pretty powerful function, so you should be able to put everything you need in your briefcase, and when it's time to solicit for a new treasurer, you can explain to them how easy the software is and how all the information they could possibly need is in one central location. So we went over a lot of information, and quite honestly, I could have gone much, much deeper. Inevitably, you'll still have questions. I want to explain to you where you can go to get some help. Number one, you should always try to attend our webinars. They are recorded, so they will be on our website. A reminder, standard subscribers actually get phone support also. The trial or budget subscribers will get email support. And then our website itself always has a resources and facts, frequently asked questions section. If you went to our web page, go to resources, you'll find a bunch of good information there about categories, the bank reconciliation process, your tax filing requirements, an explanation of our 990 filing service. We can file your 990 for you if you wish, and a detail on the requirements by state, and some more information. And then, of course, under the FAQ, a bunch of frequently asked questions are there, so you should be able to find your answer there. And then, worst case, if you just need help and you can't find an answer, you can always click our Contact Us feature and explain what you're looking to do. Leave us a message. That message is either parsed out to myself if it's an accounting or tax question. If it's a functionality question, it goes off to our software development specialists, and we'll handle them pretty quickly and turn them around pretty quickly for you. At this point, I just want to step back and thank you all for the volunteer work you do. Now, as a 17-year community volunteer, I know it can sometimes be a pretty much a thankless job. So we work hard to try to make the job easier with our software, but I still think it's important to stop and recognize the work you all do. So thank you. I'd also like to let you know, for the most part, we rely on something akin to a grassroots movement of volunteers spreading the word among each other to grow our user base. So if you haven't already, we encourage you to please like us on Facebook, and again, spread the word. We're hoping to reach a lot of people. We're in California to New Jersey, Alaska. We're all over, and we continue to grow. So we appreciate your support. So at this point, we're going to end this webinar, and you can look for a recorded version of this on the website shortly. Thank you.